Thanks for taking a minute to have a quick chat and educate me and kind of the listeners here on just from an operations perspective, what DP World is all about. Could you start off by just kind of introducing yourself and what your role is?
Yeah, sure. Morning, everybody. I'm Mark Rylance. I'm the head of logistics for Southern Africa for DP World. I've been in the industry for about 35 years. So that's my span of my life in logistics at the moment.
Okay. All right. I'm interested to dive in and learn a little bit more. Are you a native South African? Are you from here?
So I was actually born in Zambia.
Okay.
So my mom and dad moved from the UK. I was born in Zambia, but when I was 6 months old, my mom and dad moved to South Africa. So I've lived my whole life in South Africa. But my birth town is on the African continent. But,
Okay.
my whole life in SA.
All right. And within SA, in this time, have you just stayed here in the Joburg area or?
It's been quite an interesting journey for me. Even as a youngster, when we first came to South Africa, we lived in Johannesburg.
Mhm.
And then my dad was also in the logistics industry, which was quite interesting for his whole life. And we moved down to Durban. So I spent most of my growing up. I grew up mainly in Durban, so
Okay.
I spent a lot of time along the coast and that type of stuff. And then so that's a bit of my personal when I was growing up. I think from a career perspective, finished school. It was quite interesting. In South Africa at the time, you had to still do your compulsory national service. So I had to do 2 years the army, and then from there, I decided to go and put a backpack on, and I toured Europe.
Yes. Okay.
For 12 months, and I did backpacked around Europe, 13 different countries, and then I came back. I didn't really also still know really what I wanted to do. I mentioned my dad was in logistics his whole life. He always said to me, stay away from it. It's a very tough industry. And an opportunity came up. The company that I first started with, a company called Unitrans, they had some industrial action up in Johannesburg. They had a lot of people on strike, and they asked me to start as a general worker, and I actually started there in overalls, fitting some tires to trucks and helping them out through this period. And then during that period, it was quite interesting. After it all settled down, they asked me to join them on the management training program, which was a very comprehensive 2-year training program where you went through all the facets of business, technical, operations, marketing, finance. It was quite a comprehensive 2-year program. And completed that. Then they moved me also all around. It was a fleet controller, depot manager. So I moved around a little bit. I was with them for about 8 years. And then I moved across and I joined a company called Bollywood Logistics. At that time, it was really a new venture for Bollywood at the time. Bollywood was very much a Caterpillar agent.
Okay.
They have big Caterpillar dealerships all across Africa, Russia, and a couple of different places, and they were starting a logistics business. And I spent 17 years with them, 17 and a half years. I started as a regional manager, and I finished up as a chief operating officer for them, and I was with them for over 17 years, as I mentioned. Various places within South Africa. They moved me from Johannesburg to Durban back to Johannesburg back to Durban to Cape Town, and then all roads lead back to Johannesburg. So I ended up back in Johannesburg. Been back in Joburg now about 15 years, and then I joined Imperial at the time.
Okay.
I've been with Imperial / DP World, which was taken over by DP World just over 3 years ago, and I started here really as a special projects director, and I looked at certain businesses and restructured some of the businesses, and then headed up their road freight business, and then eventually, as I sit here today, I head up the logistics for the Southern Africa part of the business. So that's in short a little bit about my journey in logistics. Been over 35 years now, so it's been a journey.
I appreciate both ways that people enter the industry and the career path. Some it's by accident, and then some it's because they had a family member or they intentionally went into it. And so both career paths are both interesting in their own right. And so I love to hear the stories of people that started out with the tire fitting and moved through the career. I'm kind of interested in through this time, kind of how you've developed yourself and kept yourself aware of the latest trends and the skills. And I think that's an important part, that supply chain is ultimately ran by people.
Just pushing on the part of people. what gives me my energy every day is people. You learn very quickly in this specific field and industry that we play in, is that you can have the best warehouses, trucks, all the best assets,
Yes.
ships, whatever we have. But if you don't have motivated people that obviously drive and utilize those assets to the fullest, you're really going to have an uphill battle. So people are very, very close to my heart.
Yes.
But so for me, it was very much an operational focus to start. First part of my career, just coming back to your question, I had to do education through my career.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very, very important that you also expand your knowledge, not just from practicality, that you do enhance your educational level. So while working, I eventually had to get a degree. Those always challenge your work.
Right.
You school yourself after hours. And I've been very blessed that I've been put on some executive leadership development programs with Barloworld and with DP World.
Okay.
And I've had some fantastic learnings from that. The one with DP World was through the London Business School, where they had 5 different companies with 7 senior executives of different companies across the globe. And
Okay.
you go to America, we went to Dubai, went to London. And that, again, not only your industry, but
right.
this really gave me a broader view of the world, from manufacturing, in terms of technologies and all those different companies, and those senior executives that you engaged in broadens your horizon and lets you take on different perspectives when you come back to your own business. So that's been phenomenal for me. So I implore people, don't just stick to your knitting. Really expand your knowledge and your mind in terms of what you want to do and what you want to get out of this.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Speaking of, kind of just expanding horizons, whatnot, we were mentioning that previously you had a very much South Africa focus.
Correct.
And as of late, you've kind of got a more broad area of responsibility. So with that, and can you kind of just talk about what does DP World do here in Africa in general? What are the different elements of the business, and can you share a little bit about that?
So obviously, my specific role before the merger with DP World was very much, as I said, a South African focus. DP World is a global company.
Mm-hmm.
And, moving from a ports business to an end-to-end supply chain business, supporting the ports throughout the group, is critical for us as a business now to obviously expand in terms of where we come, just from a South African perspective. So we've really had to pick up our heads and look over the borders, because we operate obviously 6 ports across on the Africa continent, and another 2 in build. So, and those ports are receiving products from other DP World ports from across the globe, and through our Unifeeder sister companies and all of that. So, it's important that product doesn't stop at the ports that we operate. So, so the last 3 years have been a massive learning curve for me, because how we operate logistics in South Africa compared to the rest of Africa, for me, is chalk and cheese.
Okay.
So, if you look at the South African market, if you look at our roads, we have good infrastructure. Ports they haven't been performing, or they crossing, traveling from here to Cape Town is relatively not difficult for us.
Mm-hmm.
And as then you expose and you go look at different geographies, and you look at, one of our businesses in Mozambique, the J&J business, that we operate 2,000 vehicles across the continent on various corridors between, Zambia, DRC, Dar es Salaam, Windhoek, into Namibia, Walvis Bay, Durban. So we cover all the different major arterial routes across the continent that feeds these ports, because we've got lots of commodities and copper and chrome and all these different commodities that we need to move out.
Yes.
Now, I'll give you an example, So you look at Johannesburg to Cape Town, roughly 1,400 kilometers. It takes us 24 hours with a vehicle.
Okay.
Now, you take a truck from Beira to DRC, is about 2,500 kilometers. That will take, and you come back. So Cape Town and back 3 days, which is about 3,000 Ks. Beira to DRC, up and back 5,000 Ks. Anything between 52 to 63 days.
Yeah.
So 3 to 4. So you can understand, you're going through different borders, different regulations. that you've got to adhere to
Yeah.
different geopolitical issues in specific countries. So fundamentally different. So that's been a major change in my mindset in terms of
Right.
and in terms of how you've got to run businesses. And I'm only talking from a fleet perspective. We have lots of back of port operations in these ports, and so warehousing here compared to warehousing in some of our geographies in Nigeria, fundamentally different. The Nigerian market will have local fleets here do 2.5 deliveries a day. Just around Lagos, a truck will be lucky if he does one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, the congestions and the different ways that it happens has been very interesting for me and really changed how, you can't just look at a supply chain for one country that will fit other countries. Absolutely not. You've really got to be agile and flexible in terms of how you look at these things and you adapt it for your clients accordingly. Because at the end of the day, we also have to move the product's plant as efficiently, reliably, safely as possible at a cost that makes sense to him.
The different elements of the business. So you've alluded to ports and managing and operating those. We talked about trucks.
Yeah.
What are some of the other kind of pieces of the supply chain puzzle?
So the other capabilities that we run, I've just mentioned the bulk and corridors capability that we have, and those are the vehicles that run on all the various corridors across the African continent. We have a freight forwarding business. Our freight forwarding business, probably 18 months ago, we were lucky if we had 3 or 4 offices. We've had an aggressive growth on the continent aligned with the group, because the group now operates over 300 offices across the globe.
Okay.
We've opened up 35 across Africa. And again, that's to support the trade flow across the globe. Again, I just keep coming back in terms of the philosophy of the group is to make sure that we can move goods seamlessly across the globe. So really supporting that. So we've opened 35 offices in difficult geographies.
Yes.
Very difficult geographies.
And so was that through organic, opening up for the first time or acquiring existing businesses?
So we took a bold step and we've done it organically.
Okay.
So we found people, registered businesses, gone through regulatory changes. So a big feat for us, especially in the last 12 months in terms of getting these offices open. Focus going forward now is to start to make sure that we get volume and that through these specific offices across the continent. And continue to see where these opportunities are. And, we're not going to stop at 35 offices. It makes sense. We'll take it forward. Then we run a big contract logistics business. So we operate over 207 warehouses across Africa. You'll be going to have a look at one a little bit later. But again, contrasting in terms of how we operate them from bulk warehouses to fine pick warehouses. Right. So we have an array of different CL opportunities. We run massive 4PL opportunities. So we have national control towers that look after the big clients, where we put these big control towers on that we ensure the latest technology, and what we're doing with the latest technology allows our customers to track and see where their products are, what's happening. So we're very, very strong focused on that side of it. We have a big market access business, Africa.
And how does that work?
So a very interesting model, from a market access perspective. We physically will buy a product and take it onto our balance sheet.
Okay.
Then we move it through our distribution network. So we have big warehousing, transport fleets, and that. We'll move it through our distribution networks, sell it into the market. And so we physically take on the product. So, and we've been very successful in that part where you find markets are very difficult, because we're finding lots of big multinationals, in the African continent have pulled out, and we've picked up that space and we'll still move their products for them.
Yeah.
But we take on the risk and we manage it and control it and take on that inventory, and so we'll still move those products through that country, but through our networks.
From the sales and marketing perspective for those products, does that also fall to you all, or is it still on them to do the actual sell and marketing of it?
Sits with us.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That's a very, little business within the business then. Yeah.
So it's a big business. So market access is probably turnover wise is bigger than the logistics business.
Okay.
So very, very strong in Africa. And then we also have so that's a consumer. So we have market access consumer, and we also have market access healthcare.
Okay.
So we move lots of healthcare products also across Africa. And within South Africa, we have a big healthcare business in South Africa where we move really critical products to people that really need it, specific medicines and all of that. And we also run a big market healthcare business, which is fantastic for us, and then, we've really started, I've mentioned a bit earlier, but we've also really started to underpin it. We've created a small division within the group now, within the SSA logistics business, a real and ops excellence division. We've done some phenomenal work there that will go and understand countries, population, what moves where, how, so we've created various tools to really understand markets across the continent very, very well. That specific division also, tests our operating models across our businesses. What waste can we do? What are we doing? What can we do differently? So we've built really some great tools to help increase our efficiencies across our fleets, across our warehouses, across our supply chains. So very, very critical cog within our business now that has really helped us, move our business forward. So if you had to say to me, Mark, from a DP World perspective, what keeps you ahead of your competitor? I think for me, from a Sub-Saharan Africa perspective, we offer all the capabilities, from ports to ships to freight forwarding to trucking to warehousing to market access. We have the full suite.
Yes.
And we can really stitch a really great proposal or solution for our specific clients, where we can really offer them an end-to-end solution across the Africa continent. And I don't think there's too many players out there that can match what we offer at this point in time.
You kind of alluded to this investment in Africa and building out, and there were some dollar figures thrown out earlier of something like on the $3 billion worth of investment thus far. Correct. I guess here in just the last few years, maybe. Correct. And then there's a pipeline, and there's a forward-looking and an optimistic view. It seems here. Can you speak to that?
So, and again, I think it alludes back to, DP World's confidence in the Africa continent.
Yes.
Because, you can definitely go and sink that money into more mature markets and easier supply chains. But the group has a massive passion for Africa. And I can tell you, my last 3 years' experience on the Africa continent has opened my eyes, and we have a wonderful continent that I believe that, the world is really starting to look at and scratch. Over the next 3 to 5 years, I think there's another $3 billion that we're looking at investing in this continent, which again shows the commitment, from DP World to really invest in the Africa continent in some tough markets, but exciting markets. So we're very eager to go into difficult markets, which is great.
I heard a story about in a particular port somewhere here in Africa, and I lose the details, but it was kind of operated previously under different policies, and I believe that the waiting time per ship was something like 30 to 35 days before it could berth and whatnot, and that after you all kind of took after it, it was down to 3 days. And it sounds like this is symbolic of the potential efficiency gains that can be had by efficiency improving initiatives.
Absolutely.
So,
not being a port expert, but listening to a lot of my colleagues that, we sit with regularly, DP World has a very defined way and blueprint of how to operate a port. And they've mastered this. I mean, they are world class. I mean, they really have mastered this. So when they go in and look at how this thing has been operated and they start to put their blueprint over there, they will pick up very quickly what the efficiencies are and what has to be done and the investments and what has to move. And, they're very, very experienced operators that go in and run these ports. And this specific port, I mean, I think we've been operating there now probably 18 months as well as so, and what that team have done with that port is phenomenal. So, if you just think of the waiting times, and you're correct in terms of the data that you've been given, is that more product flows through the country, so it creates more revenue, more taxes, goes back into the economies, infrastructure starts to get uplifted within the country, and so it's just a snowball that that starts to help the overall GDP of those specific countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal story. The skeptics had their knives out, I think, to start with, but I think it's been a story that will be looked after and spoken about for many years to come.
I'm curious that that similar concept probably translates into your road freight division, as you mentioned, of 3 days transit, maybe here within. But when you start crossing borders and going beyond outside of SA, then it's 30 days or 60 days. And so it seems like some of those similar playbooks and concepts could be deployed there too.
Absolutely. So, as we understand these corridors more deeply, we start to say to ourselves, well, how do we get involved in customs clearing at borders? We do it in ports.
Mhm.
So, why can't we do it
Yeah.
two countries?
Right.
And get those efficiencies right. So lots of focus is being put there. Because every couple of days you can take out of the supply chain is massive
Right.
cost savings.
Yeah.
For the efficiencies, and again, you get the product through the countries a lot quicker, better revenues, better taxes. The same cycle starts all over again. So
Right.
huge focus in terms of changing turnaround times across these corridors. So we are involved in the Africa Free Trade Agreement.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're involved in that. We get involved with lots of various governments in terms of how we can get these benefits and efficiencies better. So Sophia is just not logistic. We really broaden it not only to a customer. We have very strong government relations in a lot of these countries, because if we can help with these efficiencies in these countries, again, you're helping the country and the people within that country. It's just one of very important element to DP World.
For sure. Kind of just wrapping up here, is there any topic that we haven't broached here, or forward looking, we spoke about that optimism a while ago. Kind of bringing it home here from your perspective here.
Yeah, I think for me personally, forward looking, this Africa continent is waking up.
Yes.
This giant is starting to wake up. We are in a prime position from a DP World perspective.
Sounds like it.
We're in a prime position, and we've really got to take these opportunities now. And I'm extremely excited for the future of the African continent. It's opened my eyes. It's made me think differently. So I'm very, very confident. The foreseeable future for DP World on the Africa continent is going to be fantastic.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking a minute to kind of share your story and a little bit of what DP World does here. And I'm excited to kind of follow along with the story myself from the other side of the Atlantic there.
Very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you.